If you only have 10 minutes to check your campaign this week, this is the system that you need. And the key is that what you're gonna be checking depends on the stage that your campaign is at. Hey there, I'm Feli from the Plai team, and this week we'll be going over some simple checklists so that you can go over your campaigns on week 1, week 2, week 3, and avoid the panic that usually brings the worst results for campaigns. So I'm gonna give you a short checklist and we're gonna do everything within our analytics tab. Okay, so there is one important truth that we do need to cover here, and it's that of course Meta doesn't actually optimize based on weeks, but actually based on the interaction with your ads, based on the events that help it optimize and learn about your audience. So what we mean by week 1 is that you don't actually have enough conversion events to bring in a stable conversion signal. And week 3 actually only means that you got enough data to start making more decisions. So this is what we're actually going to cover today. First of all, we're gonna check the navigation, the metrics that you should scan, the signals and what they actually mean, what you shouldn't touch, which is of course really important because that's probably the most common mistake, and also what you should be doing next. Week 1 is all about verification, not optimization. The question that you should be asking yourself is the machine wired correctly? And are we producing signals? This means that for this first week, we're actually gonna be looking at delivery metrics, because of course, if we're not delivering, then performance is meaningless. So we can switch the columns from here into actually delivery mode, and then we can start checking some stuff like the pacing, the reach, the frequency, the impressions, and the CPM, which might be a good early signal to look at. So some questions you might be wanting to ask yourself. Is the campaign spending normally? Are we getting enough events, enough views for the system to learn? Are your conversions or leads firing properly when they should? And then you can also take a look at some early signals to basically check the traffic quality. Stuff like the CPM, but also the CTR or the CPC, which are good early signals of what you're getting. Now, this is what you shouldn't be doing on week 1 and the most common mistake that make people lose money. First of all, changes. You don't want to change all of your variables at once. You don't want to be adjusting too many things on your campaign because you want to give it time to learn. Killing campaigns after just a few days is also a really common mistake that I've seen many people do. And usually killing campaigns too early is also one really common mistake. On day 3 or 4, you are really unlikely to know if a campaign is actually not going to perform. And the same is true about the opposite, scaling campaigns. You cannot start scaling on day 2 of your campaign. Even if the CTR is looking good, if you think an image is working well, you need to give it time to optimize, to bring in some stable results before starting to scale your campaigns. So super important, this first week is all about patience, observation, and slight troubleshooting if you see some signals that maybe some event is not firing properly, that the CPM might be spiking, and so on. What you should be doing on that first week is of course fix anything that might be blocking delivery regarding your campaign. Remember, all of your campaigns with error will be shown on this section. If you're running conversions and you notice too little events after 1 week, then maybe consider a higher funnel kind of event. The most clear example of this is, for example, purchase versus add to cart on e-com, but this can be applied to any funnel. And what you can definitely start doing on week 1 is turn on Optimize for Me, which will allow you to fill out the creative bank with new creatives to rotate. In this way, if the system detects any underperformance of any specific creative, image or video, you can actually come in here and add more new images, more new videos for them to be rotated in and to replace any underperforming assets. Okay, so we got to week 2, and week 2 is all about direction. So we're not trying to perfect the account, we're just trying to know if we're pointing in the right direction. And then we can start iterating intentionally. Week 2 is where the analytics tab actually becomes a weapon. Here is where you want to find out what's actually driving the results. So you can go down and open the breakdown per ad set and per ad to check out what's actually working in there. You can also tap on the creative insights to ask yourself the important questions. Do we have any particular creative carrying the performance? Are any of these creatives basically burning your budget and not bringing any results? And do we have any consistent early winners, not just one lucky early conversion? So this is the signal map that you want to be looking at. If the CTR is down, you basically may have a creative or message mismatch. This might mean that your product or service is better offering videos instead of images, or the other way around, or that simply the offer or message that you're using is not actually resonating with your audience. Now, if your CTR is stable but you got a lost conversion rate, CBR stands for that, but we can use it, for example, for leads, for conversions in your website, for whatever, then it means that you probably have a landing offer or lead quality issue. Maybe you need to give it some extra optimization on that landing page. Maybe you want to make sure that your creative offer really aligns with the lead form or the landing page that you're using. Or maybe even make it easier for your users to convert once they land. Or another thing that can happen is either too many or too little qualifying steps on any particular lead form, whether instant forms or insight forms. You don't want your lead form funnel to be super long because people will basically get tired and never complete it. And regarding the lead quality, you might have too many or too little qualifying steps. If you add 10 questions across a funnel or even more, then most likely a lot of good prospects are basically gonna opt out because they get tired in the middle of the way, and they might be asking themselves, why should I be giving these people all of my information without even knowing who they are? In the other end of the spectrum, if you don't add at least one question to qualify people, you might get a lot of users clicking and simply submitting the forms out of curiosity. So we always recommend at least 1 to 3 qualifying questions to ensure best performance. Another signal you might want to look at is the CPM. Now, a high CPM is not always bad news, and it is expected in a lot of areas. It is really common when there is a lot of competition. It is really common when your products are more expensive, because the CPM actually signals that it's taking you more money to get your ad placed in front of users. Now, this is normal for a lot of businesses, but it might also be a signal of a too narrow audience. So you might want to check out if you got enough interest, if you might switch into AA targeting, or if you broaden the location that you're targeting. And finally, a high frequency with a low CTR is a clear indication of fatigue. If you didn't add too many creatives in there, then Meta might have rotated all of them more than once to your users. So remember to keep your creative bank filled with images, videos, and headlines just to be ahead of the curve. So your week 2 actions should be small but structured. Pause only what's clearly not working and spending your money. Add creative iterations, all based on what's actually working, and of course adding new marketing angles in there. And only make budget optimizations if the results are stable. So this might be a great moment to start a budget optimizer test, especially if you're launching across multiple channels, or if you're testing formats, conversions versus lead forms versus messages, and seeing which one is actually performing for your audience. Week 3 is where you actually earn the right to make real optimization decisions, because now you should have enough signals to actually get a clear image of what's working and what's not. Okay, so now on week 3, you actually want to check out the trend lines, what's actually bringing results, if they are stabilizing their price points, so you can compare all of the timeline of your ad and its ad sets. But it might also be a great idea to start checking the last 7 days, the last 14 days, and start comparing what the actual cost per click, the cost per acquisition, the CTR are looking like. In this way, you can check if your volume of conversions, leads, or whatever is consistent, if your costs are actually drifting, and to check the breakdown of other stuff, especially audience insights like your locations. Placements are a great place to check also because sometimes one of your placements might be dragging your cost per result. And in the same way, you might start seeing some demographics which are engaging a lot with your ad and might not be actually converting in it. Now remember, you definitely want to switch now from delivery and so on to either the default view, which will give you a great overview of everything that is going on in here, or towards more of performance optimized views, which gives you results, the cost per result, the spend, and all the key information you want. Now here comes a big tip. if you are working a lot with video content, if you're doing a lot of AI avatars or even your own UGC content, you definitely want to make the most out of the video engagement metrics, because this will allow you to see how effective all of your creatives and videos are being. So you can check how many people have watched at which stage, and you can see where they are actually dropping out of your ads. Not only that, but this will allow you to build a pretty accurate retargeting audience later on. And based on that, maybe a lookalike, and start building a new iteration of your campaign, a new offer to get those clients who actually went through and watched all of your video, which is a great metric to analyze how engaged, how interested they are on your product, but they may not have converted yet. So you definitely want to go back, grab them and take them to a new ad, maybe a special offer, maybe any sort of promotion. The other thing you want to be doing is basically consolidate what's actually working. Now remember, with the AI optimization, all of your creatives will be automatically rotating, will be automatically keeping optimized, but you can actually check in which ones are bringing in more results to generate new variations and to keep feeding, again, your optimized for me creative bank. And in this way, you can keep on replacing the assets for better ones, generating new variations with new marketing angles, but with similar on-brand features. And from there, it becomes basically a weekly rhythm of checking in on what's working and what's not. But of course, if you're using the Optimize for Me Creative Bank, if you're using the Budget Optimizer tool to test, and the rules area to make sure that your campaigns are scaling properly and are also being descaled if they go over any parameters or even post, you can actually leave this on autopilot and let Plai do the rest. So as a quick recap, on your third week, you want to be consolidating your campaigns. You want to focus on the ad sets which are actually working. You want to focus your spend on the campaigns which are actually bringing in the results. And you want to reinforce the winners, the ads, the ad sets, the campaigns, the formats which are actually bringing in all of your results. There are a few golden rules about scaling as well. Taking again our rules area, which allows you to auto-manage your scaling, you want to be doing 10 to 20% budget increases, not go a lot over that, and keep it on a frequency of 3 to 4 days at least. This should be the minimum time period between increases. You can in fact take a much longer time if needed to scale your campaigns. And of course, optimize towards only one variable at a time. Otherwise, you will be getting a lot of mixed signals about what's actually working and what's not. On the rules area, you will be able to keep this process in autopilot. And there are definitely some do not touch best practices as well. You also do not want to be modifying your budget really fast and really big, in a big swing kind of way, because that is how most people actually send their ads back into the learning phase. You also do not want to be constantly modifying or editing live ads, because that will interrupt the signal accumulation. You can definitely do some edits, you can definitely feed your creative bank, just avoid the constant interruption and re-editing of the same assets over and over again. And even though we're on week 3, still be aware that some of your campaigns might need more time, especially depending on the business area that you're working at. So if your campaign is still low data, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be killed. You can give it some more time for it to collect proper signals and later on decide. I hope this has been useful for you, and let me know in the comments if you want a quick checklist or any other resource that we could build to help you scale your campaigns more efficiently.